I'm tired. Not like the I need a nap kind of tired, the kind of tired that goes into your soul and slows your thinking and makes you dread the things you were so excited to put on the calendar only a few months ago. The kind of tired that feels like the first signs of burning out. And I know I'm not alone. The risk of burning out is common to creative people because we tend to live through cycles of low productivity and incubation followed by massive productivity and high energy. We work when the work comes and we crank it up to 11 when the inspiration strikes and the flow is happening. We make hay, as they say, when the sun shines, and sometimes the sun shines for more hours in a day than we have the energy for. This is an overdue episode 73 of Vision is Better. Let's talk about burning out.
I'm photographer David duChemin, and this is Vision is Better, a sometimes weekly podcast about the craft and art of photography. Welcome here.
So I asked on Instagram for some ideas about my next couple episodes, and Lola asked me how I keep from burning out. It seemed like a good idea to ask myself the same question. How do I keep myself from burning out? God knows I've been close enough. I'm there right now. But I've been making a living exclusively from my creativity, with the exception of a brief stint at Kentucky Fried Chicken that we try not to talk about, for all my adult life. And I know that burnout or creative exhaustion creeps up on all of us. And when it does, it can totally flatten us. So here's how I look at burnout. We only have so much fuel creatively, and that fuel burns at different rates depending on a lot of things, how tightly we schedule ourselves, how much we love the work we're doing, both in terms of the process and the actual thing we're creating, and how much fuel we've actually got on hand. The fuel itself is a personal blend of all kinds of things, like how many ideas we've got going in the background, where we're at physically and emotionally. It's probably other things too. We're all different. But here's what I know. If I don't control the burn, I end up with this bright flame and then nothing. And if that happens, it's much harder to get the fire going again. So how do I control the burn? How do I keep things burning at a desired level without completely flaming out? Well, I don't always. Right now is a good example of that. I got home from my last set of workshops that came at the end of an insane couple of months that were filled with travel and new projects that took a ton of time and even more emotional energy. And I'm looking at my fuel reserves right now and I'm dangerously low. So the first thing I do, and I'm doing right now, is protecting myself. I start saying no to everything that is not a high priority or will not refuel me. It's not easy, but you have to learn to say no. That's the way you avoid burnout. That's it. It's that simple. And I should have said no to some things sooner, but you don't always see it coming. Sometimes you do your best, things are going well, and you plan into the future and you let future you deal with it only to get there and find out, shit, I'm future me, and I don't have the resources. Saying no, learning to get good at triage thinking is really important. And if you don't like saying no, most of us don't, think of it as saying yes to more important things. You have to start saying no. That's the simplest answer to this whole question. But most of us need to back it up a little bit in order to know what we need to say no to. And you can only answer that by knowing what you want out of life and what's truly important to you. And yeah, there's a real balancing act in there, and most of us totally suck at balance, but you need to be able to say, look, this is important, and in order to say yes to this, I need to say no to this, to other things. I get a lot of things done. I'm extremely productive, but it only happens by being a little ruthless with not doing other things. And once in a while, I take on too much and I need to dial it back. Simple as that. If you don't dial it back, you burn out. So that's how I control the burn, so to speak. But you also need to keep the fuel coming in. It's really important to me to keep new ideas coming in. I've always got 2 or 3 books on the go. I read for about an hour a day because without reading something new, without wrestling with new ideas, either about creativity or art or being an entrepreneur, I have nothing to work with. Those new ideas are my raw materials, and if they run out, it is the same thing as burning out. I just run out of fuel. My most productive times are long, slow burns with one or maybe two really important things going on the front burner, and one or two important but less urgent things on the back burner. They're on a simmer. And there's always a constant supply of new ideas, mostly from books and conversations with friends, although most of those conversations just introduce me to new books. For you, it might be podcasts or audiobooks or movies, but know what refuels you and never neglect that. If you don't have fuel coming in, you will burn out. We can only work without raw materials for so long. We can only accumulate those raw materials for so long. You've got to have a constant flow. So don't neglect the ideas. Don't neglect going to new sources. Increase the inputs. Here are a few other things I think are important, at least to me. Burnout happens way faster for me when I compare myself with others. So if I'm working hard on my own projects, I consume very little social media. When I'm working on new stuff, it's all about that stuff and not about other people and what they are doing. I don't want to be influenced while I'm working. The time for influence was before I was doing the work. And if I'm getting distracted by Facebook or Instagram or whatever, I'm not doing my best work. I'm not doing deep work. I also get way closer to burnout when I don't take time to eat well or to get some exercise. And I'm terrible at this. The brain is a physical thing, and it works best when it's healthy and has lots of water and oxygen. And while I am terrible at this stuff, I can tell you, if I'm struggling, the best thing I can do is get a glass of water, do some deep breathing, go for a walk, get outside, breathe some air, move my body, or take some time off. Turn off the phone, open a bottle of wine, and do something completely different. For me, the answer is almost never just stop what I'm doing and go on vacation. Doing nothing at all stresses me out. I'm not a workaholic. I just love what I do, and my brain needs to chew on things or it gets mushy. But I do take breaks. I do nap when I need to, or I turn my attention to one of my other projects for a little while. Give my brain something different to chew on for a bit. Okay, so what do you do if you have burned out? First, it happens. It happens more often than we'd like it to. But don't get stuck there. Get more fuel and light the fire. Creativity only happens when we get back to work. So if you're a photographer and you're burned out and you took some time off and you know it's time to get back to work and you have no idea where to start, it's not where you start that matters. It's when you start. Start anywhere, but start now. If you wait for inspiration to strike, for that idea to be completely formed before you get working and put the camera in your hands, you'll wait a long, long time. Inspiration strikes when we start working. That's the way it works. The magic isn't picking up the camera and starting. Same thing with writing. Most of the time when I'm writing, I will hit a wall. I don't think I can write another word. So I take time to refuel, and I still have no friggin' idea what I'll write, but I start. And I start ugly, and the first stuff is garbage. But as I write, I find a groove, and things get better. That's how you start. That's how it works. And it's the same with the camera or the paintbrush or whatever your particular tool is. You start working. You start ugly, and slowly the muse shows up, and things begin to flow. And in the in-between time, do something different. Mix it up. Try something you've never done before. If you normally zig, then do some serious zagging for a little while. Don't take yourself too seriously. Go have a bottle of wine. Take a week to pick up the guitar again or learn to draw. Give your brain a break. Ultimately, I think burnout is about pacing, not about how much we do. Some of my best times have been insanely productive, and I haven't been close to creative exhaustion or burnout at all. In fact, I think it's entirely possible to get totally burned out without accomplishing anything. Like a 4-year-old that just runs around the living room on one of those red line sugar highs and then collapses. We're busy, 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 just spinning our wheels, but doing nothing of value. So next week, I'm going to talk about getting more done, being more productive, and these 2 episodes can balance each other out. That's it for me. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Vision is Better. If you've experienced burnout and have thoughts about avoiding it or recovering from it, drop a note in the comments. Be sure to subscribe or click the like button if you've enjoyed this episode. And if you're new here and you're a photographer and you're looking to improve your craft, then head over to mycontactsheet.com and let me send you 20 ways to stop around with your camera and make better photographs without more gear. an updated version of my first 2 ebooks that together have been downloaded over 1 million times. The ebook is new, it's updated, it's got a way longer title. See you next time. Until then, remember, gear is good, but vision's better. Take care.